Show can be found on NBCChicago.com. So, all of you, welcome. Everybody's microphone work?
Hello?
Okay, let's say hello. And let's just kind of walk down the line. How has the role of the traditional journalist changed your life? Because you have changed what everybody here does, right?
Well, I don't necessarily know if we've changed what everyone here does. I think what we've been is indicative of the type of shifts that we were just talking about earlier, where people are looking at consuming information in completely different ways than they're used to. What we're seeing is that what used to be huge stories for us, like the reveal of a new vehicle, like new powertrain info, all of that's been so commoditized because there's so many different options out there that it's no longer considered a story for us anymore. It's the same story everyone else has. So I think that what we're seeing is because of this kind of balkanization of media, we're finding that we're looking in different places for it, we're looking for different information, and we're looking for ways to be able to interact with each other.
All right, and it's changed. 5 years ago, you and I, even at this show, had a couple of issues where we were talking about, in general, about bloggers and how we handle bloggers. And 5 years ago, the attitude of a media director at an auto show was completely different about how we talk to blogs. Now we actively seek bloggers to come to the auto show. We embrace the whole concept. It's a whole new thing. And Sharon, for instance, for you come from a very traditional media background, but now that has changed for you. The whole dynamic has changed.
Well, yes and no. I was on a panel recently where we talked about the changing way that people are consuming news, and that's true. People are consuming it in a different way, but working for a traditional news organization, a lot of what I do is still the same. A lot of what I do is still interviewing people and working with sources and being sort of the gatekeeper of what I think is going to be newsworthy. And the format has changed, and where I put that stuff has changed, and how often I'm on the computer dealing with people on the computer is definitely a lot more. There's a lot more computer interaction than face-to-face interaction, but I don't feel like the actual nature of my job as a journalist has changed dramatically over the course of the past 5 years. I'm still doing the same stuff.
You're doing the same stuff, you're just presenting it differently. Okay, but now you, Heidi?
I have to say that it's really, as a former radio producer and a producer now, it's really helped make my job a lot easier because there's so many niche blogs out there. So I actually I produce a automotive show program geared towards women, and it used to be really hard to find niche markets of women who were running automotive stores or selling automotive products, and now there's so many blogs and resources out there for me, so it makes it a lot easier to source a lot of the stories that I'm doing. But a couple things I'm going to caution is everybody thinks they're an expert at something. And a lot of bloggers, as you mentioned, will start a blog because they bought a car once and now they think they're an expert in buying cars, right? And so I may wind up on that blog because they may have a husband or a friend that's really good in SEO. And so that blog may come up first. And it might look really good, but what you really have to do, and what I really caution, is when I'm sourcing a story, I have to really take a look at who is this blogger I'm going to be talking to, and I really have to look at that blogger's digital footprint, which means I really have to still do some of the legwork that I used to have to do traditionally. It's a lot easier, and I can follow this blogger's now footprint. Who's she interacting with on her blog? What blogs is she going to and commenting? Who is commenting back to her? Who's she speaking with on Twitter? Is she really a valid source? And so it really has made it easy in that way because of her digital footprint that I could vet her out a lot easier. When more traditionally I would get pitched a story, I'd have a conversation with somebody who's going to be my guest, but I really wouldn't check references and I didn't know that much. So I have to say, in one sense, it's really just made my job a lot easier producing these such a target niche show to women whose lives touch the automotive industry, which is great to be here.
Okay. Now, we've got people here from traditional media, from new media, from manufacturers, everybody. And it seems like whenever, if you happen to go on launch programs, we get into this discussion almost every night at some point or other, and it's usually after the second gin and tonic that this comes up. The first one is always very polite, and after that it goes, oh yeah, well, let me tell you about that. Well, here we're going to just do that under the influence of caffeine and talk about what's going on. So as we talk about this, raise your hand if you want to bring up the subject and get into it. Gee, who gets? Okay.
I'm a traditional journalist, one of that little pie-shaped segment, who's made the transition almost entirely to the web, because most of my outlets are gone. I find that it's far more difficult to reach my audiences instead of easy, because there's so much, and I'm going to call it clutter, because the web is filled with these I bought a car bloggers, and I'll get questions constantly. Is there some way a traditional journalist who's made this transition can be more effective in this marketplace?
So, market your content. Market the hell out of your content. That's the easiest way to do it. If you've got a good story, you need to be pitching your story. If you want to see it up on Jalopnik, you want to see it up on Autoblog, you want to see it on Edmunds Inside Line, you need to give them the story and let them know that it's there. Some of our best stories are ones in which we've actually shared an exclusive with other publications and almost provided an embargo. We've marketed the story. It's one of the reasons that automakers will reach out to us with exclusive stories, is because they know that we're far better at marketing our stories in the digital medium than they are. So if you've got a good story, let us know about it and let other people know about it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say, building those authentic relationships online. So where is it that you want to place your stories? I mean, most of the auto manufacturers that are here are up on Facebook and Twitter, and really reaching out to them in an authentic way, just like you would build a relationship with, if you met me for a cup of coffee. You find out who they are, it's real easy, and just really take it slowly and let them know I'm a traditional journalist, but this is my niche now. First of all, that validates you to me. I want to talk to you because you do know the traditional rules that we all look for. And then just build relationships. You are king because you have the content. Content is king. And so...
Yeah, but some people might argue that the rules are wrong. If you understand, you're saying that you get validation because you understand the rules because you were a traditional journalist. There are a lot of people who are saying that new media folk don't abide by the old rules.
But I would say we are dealing with a lot of new media folk, but you know what? Rules are still rules, and you don't want to slander, and you don't want to libel, and you don't want to... A lot of those rules, which are very common sense to all of us as traditional journalists, and I need to know that if I'm asking you to write a blog post for me, I need to know that you understand those basic rules so I don't have to go in and do a lot of editing or explaining. I do hire a lot of non-traditional. It's a lot more work for me.
I think when we were talking about changes in our job, one of the things as a traditional journalist that's been new over the past few years is that I don't think as print journalists we were really used to promoting ourselves or even talking about ourselves. I write for the blog now, and just yesterday I had a post up that has a picture of me with those guys who are over at the Kia, the cartoon characters, and it ended up on the front page of our money section online site. I'm just like completely embarrassed by that, but that's what the paper likes. That's what they want. They're thrilled with it. It's not what I'm comfortable with, but it's making everybody happy. So it's one of those things that you kind of have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and talk about yourself more and promote yourself.